So, hey everyone, my name is Darren Morgan. I'm the Executive Director of Arkansas Commitment. We are a CBO organization based in Little Rock, Arkansas that works to prepare students for the college admissions process. Our main goal is really just to eliminate the equity gap when it comes to academic resources and opportunities for underrepresented and underserved students. And I am joined by Ms. Danielle Santos.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here with all of you. I would say to see you, but you know, in this virtual day and age, it's hard to see people. But I am with the University of Michigan in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I am the program coordinator for strategic outreach, which I'm very happy to announce is a fairly new position within our office. We've been a longstanding supporter of college-based or college access community-based organizations, but more recently with my role decided to formalize some of the many partnerships we've built over the year with many of you who are probably in this room right now. And so it's my role at the office to oversee those partnerships and really provide one-on-one assistance to college counselors and advocates, much like you, to you and your students and their families throughout the application process. But I have a long history in access, as I was telling Darren today. So I started out in college access advising, and I am just really thrilled to be here to really learn from all of you. So with that said, we'll go ahead and hop in to the discussion. I'm not sure if they mentioned this in the last session on the main stage, but for this breakout session, we're going to actually, instead of hearing from the both of us in a formal presentation manner, we're going to be facilitating a discussion with all of you who are really the experts, because many of you are on the ground working with students day in, day out throughout the application and college process. So I know many of you also see students through to and through college. So today we were hoping to facilitate a discussion on how higher ed institutions and CBOs can really work together, especially in this uncertain day and age that we're in. Seems like never-ending virtual day and age that we're in. So with that being said, with our first question, I just wanted to open it up for the floor. What challenges do you hope to discuss and unpack during today's session with us? And we would love it if you could either mention your name and organization in the chat with your response. You can also, I believe, share your video and be asked to come on stage, and we'll let people speak one by one. Okay, we have some people from all over. East Lansing, okay, fellow Michiganders here. Madison, Wisconsin. Los Angeles. Oh, hey, Ellen from Philadelphia Futures.
Like we have a diverse group of CBOs here. And
yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So one question, is anyone familiar with an active list or spreadsheet of CBOs across the country? I actually believe College Greenlight has a database on their website where you can enter in the states that you're interested in the city, and it will pop up, populate all of the CBOs in that area. If not, you can actually go to Google and type in CBO finders, and you will also see a list of CBOs in your area that interest you. And I guess our first question is, you know, I guess in a sense none of us are really experts in this year particularly, because everything is so new and so different. So, you know, I just want to open the floor to everyone, but what are some of the obstacles that you guys anticipate for your students? And what we really want to do is find solutions and talk about what those problems are and how we can remedy them going forward. So for anyone, what are some of the biggest obstacles you may face?
And I do think we have some people waiting in the queue. So I'm going to try this out and see if how this works. You can let anyone out on the stage.
So we have Christopher on.
Hi, Christopher.
Hi, so I'm an admissions counselor at Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts. So I put myself in the queue thinking that we were all supposed to do that automatically. So I don't have a question lined up. Well, I actually do have one, but this might be a little bit off of what you just mentioned. It was just about, in my work at Clark, I've been curious about how can I be a good partner for CBOs, especially in terms of helping them counsel their students in terms of our financial aid and what we can and can't offer. I've been asked that question a lot lately. Pretty upfront with CBO meetings is we expect a lot of financial changes this year and a lot of financial instability. So can your institution afford our students? And I can absolutely understand where that question is coming from. And I just want to know what are some helpful answers like that we could offer from the admissions side. Because I'll just say where I struggle with that is on the one hand, I can't quite predict financial aid packages ahead of time, but I also want to make sure I'm giving you all the best information possible so that, because none of us can predict. I mean, I don't make the decisions by myself. So it's, it's kind of like we're both trying to figure out how to meet in the middle. So that's just one question that I was looking for any thoughts on.
Yeah, that is a great point, Christopher. And I can speak at least from our institution because that has been a main concern we hear over and over again, and actually was a huge concern this past April, right when the pandemic hit. And for us, I'm not sure how it is at Clark, but our office is highly decentralized at Michigan, being a very big institution. So for me personally, I've tried really hard to build some internal relationships so as to stream lines of communication. So I have a contact in our financial aid office who I work with specifically around supporting our underserved students. And we try to meet regularly throughout the admission cycle just to make sure that we're staying on top of deadlines, that they're communicating to students, as well as figuring out, how they're releasing information, being, aware of any last minute changes that are happening to financial aid packages. So that's just one way that I anticipate I'll continue working this year, especially with some of the COVID updates as they unfold. But I don't know if anyone else had thoughts either on the CBO side or higher ed side.
Yeah, and I can hop in real quick from the CBO side. And one thing I've noticed when it comes to financial aid is that a lot of our students just aren't aware of the different options out there for them. They see that sticker price and kind of freeze up, especially when you see price tags, 60,000, 70,000, when, they really don't hear about the affordability of colleges now, but what they do hear is how expensive they are and how student loans are sky high. I think part of the things that we can do is really just work to kind of change the narrative a bit from colleges are expensive to colleges are affordable, and actually working with you to make it more affordable. Part of my job, I go into different high schools. My students within my program come from about 14 different schools, and I'm always amazed at how they just aren't aware of the different options out there, from no loan schools to schools that meet full demonstrated need. They're just not abreast on the different options that are out there for them. So I think one thing we can do is just really teach them and constantly drill it in that college can be affordable, and it is affordable as long as you find the colleges that are working to meet them halfway, in a sense. What are some things that are working for other maybe CBO, or if they're high school counselors on? What are some things that have worked for you guys, and as far as making your students understand that college can be accessible?
Hi.
Hey, Carla.
Darren, you helped me before. And so I guess I was just listening to you, and the question I have for y'all is, how do we get a comprehensive list of all these places that you're talking about, letting our schools know, our students know about?
Yeah, so as far as like the no loan schools and the schools that meet full demonstrated need, you can actually Google schools that meet full demonstrated need, and a list of about 80 colleges will come up. Most of them are on the East Coast from what I've seen, but there's a long list out there. There's also a list of test optional schools. I saw a question about the changes to the ACT and ACT. Both of those lists are found on Google. When I do my presentations, I always tell the kids to pull out their phone and type in Google, and they're always shocked to see that list populate.
Thank you.
No problem. I think Lorenzo wanted to jump in. We can't. I think you're muted. We still can't hear you.
Oh.
Let's see. Do we have the power to unmute people? I'd say while we figure out Lorenzo, can we skip to Trevor? Sorry, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I don't know if this is kind of along the same lines that you were talking about, but I'm kind of having the opposite effect, really, where students aren't truly understanding the cost of college. Definitely understanding that sticker price is not the main price, but being in Madison, Wisconsin, and working with predominantly, marginalized students, first gen, DACA undocumented, we're taking them through this college access program where they are shown all of these opportunities and really trying to take advantage of all these opportunities, going on these amazing BSU trips and seeing these schools that they can definitely flourish and be successful at. But what they're seeing is that they go to these certain schools and say, yes, you can get in with a 3.0, a 3.2, and an 18.20 in the ACT, but for lack of a better term, an HBCU or other schools out of state are going to be kind of licking their chops and saying, of course we want you to come from out of state because you're going to have such a higher tuition than if you were in state or maybe getting merit-based aid. So I'm seeing a lot of my students get accepted and really just having this elation, and then the award letter comes in and I'm getting texts, phone calls, emails in June and July and say, how can you help me close my $28,000 gap to go to my dream school? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it is I've gotten calls from 5 to 30,000 within a month of school starting. So that's obviously a different problem, but really trying to connect with the institutions, and B, like my students and the CBOs, just like, how do we rectify this in a much larger scale? I mean, we do best fit presentations. We every single minute of every single day. Have you applied to scholarships? Have you looked at those types of things? So really just trying to find kind of some best practices to relay that information more to my students, because I'm not in the business of saying you can't go to this school, but knowing that also 90% of our students and their parents or guardians cannot take out a Parent Plus loan even. So that gap is going to be out of pocket no matter what.
Yeah. You want to take that one?
Yeah.
But that was a loaded one. So.
No, I really appreciate the honest question. I mean, because for many of our students, financial aid is a non-starter, right? If a student has a significant amount of out-of-pocket funding, it's going to be a really tough conversation in terms of talking about what kind of school you go to. And so, I can speak from our institution standpoint in that, something I've realized is that it's more beneficial for me to connect with my students about financial aid conversations, not in March or April or even February when they get their admissions letter, but really to be engaging in that process as soon as they start applying. Because at Michigan, since students are applying to different schools and colleges, there will actually be a lot of departmental aid that can come with those schools wanting to recruit diverse students from out of state. However, they don't always do a great job of communicating that to students, because there's a lot of moving pieces with the application process, and students are kind of typically really focused on getting that application, and that should. So I would definitely recommend, when you're reaching out to admissions officers, definitely start connecting about financial aid early, have your students file their FAFSA and CSS profile as soon as they can, as soon as they become available. So that way they can get ahead of that conversation, should they get admitted to that school.
And one thing that's really worked for me, one thing that has really worked for me is getting ahead of it, like Danielle said. And I get all of my students, when they're creating their college list, I also tell them to go ahead and fill out the net price calculator for each school they're interested in too. And that way, there's no surprises. They know ahead of time a good ballpark figure of what the college is going to ask them. And if they still want to go ahead and give it a shot and apply, they won't be surprised, come March when those letters come back. Another thing is kind of a last-ditch effort is the appeal process. I tell all of my students, if they don't get enough money back, it can't hurt to ask for more through the formal appeal process. So, we've had some amazing responses from some colleges that have increased aid after filling out that appeal process or, submitting a letter, and it's really worked out in the kids' favor. Sometimes they say no, but when the times they do, even $1,000 or $2,000, in some few cases, we had about $10,000 in increase. That will really change the game for these kids.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think Darren, on your point, a well executed appeal, and the thing that we always remind our students about is when you're appealing for financial aid, you're asking for tangible assets. So bring as much tangible proof as you can. My FAFSA and my financial aid forms don't show that I have to take care of, other family members or whatever that is, right? So bring that paperwork, that proof with you, and make it easy for the college. Lay it all in front of them and say, here it is, right? And those for us have been the most successful. And then I will say Danielle as well. So guys, my name is Ed Bianchi. I work with Idea Public Schools in Texas, but I actually live in Massachusetts. And my wife is a college financial aid director. And one of the biggest advices she always gives is for families to sit down early and talk about what is possible, regardless of what the college is going to look like, what is possible dollar-wise for our family. And then that way, when those admissions letters start pouring in, that discussion and that part of the decision-making process can be a little less stressful. It will be stressful, but they will all be, the family will be a little more prepared with what their, what they truly know they can expect to do and what could be done on the college. But I Darren, what you said, I love, there's nothing to be lost by appealing. Our students have been told no so many times in their lives. Let's shoot for a yes, let's keep shooting for yeses. So no, I love that advice.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
And the FAFSA asks for a lot, and the CSS profile asks for a lot of information, but there's still a lot of things that it can't capture, medical expenses, parents having to take care of, grandparents and things like that. Those are all things that, can show that you actually need more money than what the college is. Because the FAFSA, I always tell my students, it's a federal document. They only care about how much money you have coming in. They don't really ask about everything you have going out. So lay it all out, let the colleges know that you are way broker than what they think you are. And sometimes it works out in your favor,
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could jump in here. Sorry about the audio issues going back and forth. First off, Ed, really love the Idea Schools. I have a former student of mine that was from the Idea Schools, and I was at Brown University. Talks very highly about the Idea Schools over there. But I should introduce myself. My name is Michael Bruins. I'm with College Point at College Possible. We work primarily with lower income high school students specifically. And I agree with you, Trevor, is once we get to that point where we need to do the appeals process, your options are much more limited. And that's a harsh reality. And so what we try to do is we try to push that balanced list and push those idea of the 100% need met schools, 80% even need met schools, I think can be great options as well, as early as we possibly can. I think one of the really tricky parts that we hear is, I want to go to this dream school, but the really hard reality for our lower income students is that we aren't in the business of saying, no, you can't go to the school because you can't afford it, but it's apply to that school, but also let's apply to schools that are like that. We always try to make sure that there's a financial fit option that's in their schools, where when you finish that net price calculator that Darren was talking about, that number, whatever that might be for that family, seems to fit really well for them. But making sure that you can still get the same vibe of the school that is their dream school, because there's thousands upon thousands of schools that are out there right now. There's going to be another school that's like it. It's just whether or not you're going to put that into your category is all.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ellen from Philadelphia Futures. The only thing I would add to a really rich conversation is just possibly doing financial aid case studies. So, when students are taking a look at applications and saying, no, I'd admit or waitlist or deny, it could be the same for financial aid awards. So to take a look at 3 or 4 financial aid awards and say, oh, I would never go there. That's way too expensive. It's a huge cash gap. Or, oh, this looks like a really good deal. Students can do that easily for objectively, when they're doing a case study. And then I think it helps build in that practice and that muscle for students and families when they get their own award letters, so that it's a familiar document and so there's less heartbreak. It's really, if financial fit is going to be a determining factor, and for so many students it is certainly a key part of their college decision conversation, then at least there's some experience being objective, as opposed to having so much emotion tied to that dream school. And the only other piece I would say is just around, I think, playing the long game and thinking about how to make your undergraduate education as affordable as possible. So, you want to go to X school, great. Maybe that can be a possibility for grad school or further education. How can we make your undergrad experience as affordable and, with as much least manageable debt as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that I've noticed with counseling my students too, and I'm sure Danielle, you saw it on the high school side, is a lot of time with lower income students, the way that we're raised is this model called natural growth, where we kind of grow up and we learn from the people around us and from our parents, our cousins, the people that's accessible to us. So a lot of the times with the colleges that our kids talk about, it's only because those are the ones that they've heard about their whole lives, So they know that that's their dream school because their parents went there, their grandparents might have gone there, their cousins went there. So they're willing to kind of pay that cost because they think that's what you're supposed to do. Everyone else has done it. But I think sometimes, there's over 4,000 colleges in America, and sometimes their dream schools might be a school that they have never heard of before. So just letting them know their options are out there. When we talk about fit, we talk about reach schools, match schools, safety schools, but we never talk about financial reach, financial safety, and financial meet schools either. And I think laying it out there on the table, letting them make their list of their dream schools, but also the schools that are affordable and will be more affordable to them will help out in the long run too. I think Denise, did I say that right?
Hi,
right,
Darren. Cool. Hi, Danielle. So I'm Denise Hovid. I work with the TGR Foundation, and we primarily work with first gen and students of color. And we help them with the college application process. And kind of going back with what Ellen was saying about the activities, again, because we work with so many students that don't even know where to, not just them, but also their families. Something that we've done, not just now, but in the past, is we've been doing home visits. But obviously, given the pandemic, we've had to shift that. And it really brings up the conversations with their families, like whoever they live with at home, whether it's a single parent household, whether it's grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle. There's a lot of pretty much nervousness around what are the next steps? And what we've been doing is these virtual family visits that we started throughout the summer, and having these very thoughtful conversations and trying to answer like, what questions do you have? A lot of our parents are Spanish speaking parents, also Vietnamese families that we work with as well. So as of right now, I only know Spanish, so I can translate that, but you know, that those are very meaningful conversations. And then later on, we do actually do something similar to what Ellen mentions, is evaluating a financial aid award letter and having them understand what do loans mean, what do like scholarships mean, what does this mean? Because I mean, I'm a first gen, you know, college graduate myself. My parents literally never had a conversation with me about the importance of like finances. And to be honest with you, as a grown woman now, like sometimes I even struggle like, oh, let me reach out to so-and-so to like make sure like what that even means. So again, I think virtual, like if you can, because I know there's a lot of equity issues around technology for our students, even a simple phone call, like just getting on a call, whether it's a 20-minute phone call, like families, what questions do you have, if any, or if you don't know what questions to ask, these are maybe 1 or 2 action steps you can take right now. Because I feel many of our families are just feeling overwhelmed with way too many things. So those are just some little tidbits. One thing that we're also doing for our students, given that they're spending so much time in this virtual space, so many of them are feeling this virtual burnout. Many of them have had to take part-time positions because their parents don't have jobs or their families aren't working. So with that said, we're trying to create really quick material, like in 10 or 15 minutes or less. This is a rundown. If you cannot access it at this point in like a live point, we're going to add it to your Google Classroom so you could then access it then, if you know, if they have that. If not, we're doing one-on-one phone calls with them. So those are just a few things. And again, thank you guys all for doing this. This has been one of the most interactive sessions that I've attended all summer, even though we're towards the end of it. So appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea of doing virtual family visits. I know connecting with people is really tough in this day and age, especially because it's not as easy as, you know, just knocking on someone's door, going down the hallway to check in on your student. So yeah, thank you for the work that you do too, Denise. And I believe we do have some time left, Darren, for probably a couple more comments, but I did just want to lift up some of the comments and questions people had about connecting in terms of you know, if admissions officers and colleges would be open to, you know, visiting with students. And it looks like so many people have already offered that opportunity. And I would even encourage many of the CBOs on this call to think about how they can really pool resources together in their area as well, either with other CBOs or you know, school districts on creating some virtual visit opportunities for 1 or more colleges to interact with your students. It's something Michigan is thinking a lot about, is connecting with students, you know, in the evening time and the weekends, trying to get at students when we know that they're most engaged with us and available. So I don't know if anyone else had other things that they wanted to add in terms of ideas about connecting, making sure colleges and students are connecting in this digital age.
That's kind of what my question was. This is definitely for Danielle and Darren and really everyone out there. So with the CBO that I work with, we're part of a Boys and Girls Club here in Madison, and we have our college access and college success side of things. And what I feel that I'm really struggling on is connecting with schools that want to partner with us. Not that they're saying no, or just really like coming to a stalemate. And now more than ever, and even last year too, I even felt that schools should be wanting to partner with us in any realm, really, because with our program, we're consistently graduating at least 200 seniors from the Madison area, and that number isn't changing. It would actually grow year by year. So I guess I'm having an issue with finding the right way to reach out to universities and colleges to kind of start that conversation, and then even kind of finding the right person, department, or whomever to kind of start that conversation with.
Yeah, I'm gonna start on that one, and that can be difficult sometimes. And sometimes it feels like being a CBO, you actually have to prove yourself before colleges will work with you in some instances. And I'm formerly on the admission side and converted to CBO. And what I would recommend is reaching out to the diversity coordinators in each office that you're interested in. Go ahead and send them your fact sheet and your data as far as graduation, average ACT scores or GPAs. If you have a college list of what colleges they go to after they leave your program, that would help out too, because colleges, in a sense, they're jealous. They want to see who they're competing against, so they want to make sure that the kids are going to schools that are similar in quality and strength of theirs. So if you can do that, I think that would be a good starting point. That has kind of worked for me. And just not stopping, man, just bugging them, emailing them, calling them until they finally just give in and hop on a call with you. That's always been my thing.
Yeah, I can definitely say I appreciate the persistence approach, because that is helpful. As you know, Darren, in admissions, there's a lot of different balls you're juggling all at once, especially as diversity or multicultural recruiters. But I will say, the number one thing I hear in the higher ed side in admissions is there are so many CBOs, and sometimes schools just don't know who they should be talking to. So I think if you can come to the table, ready to talk about, your programming that you're doing with students, how are you intentionally engaging with them, throughout junior, senior year, but maybe even earlier, about fit, about match, because I know for places like Michigan, if we were to look at partnering with CBOs or students in Wisconsin, that's not a huge area for us to recruit from. So we just want to make sure that you're working with students on having that conversation early about going out of state, that they understand what that entails. If you have any through college support aspect to your program, those are things I'm always interested in knowing about. And I'm sure other admissions folks can hop in here too. But yeah, Christopher.
I just wanted to add on to that. I've had a few CBO counselors reach out to me about counselor calls at some point during the admission cycle. And I just want to say that I am always so happy to do that. And I wish we should take advantage of this time where we're rethinking the whole process to make that a more regular built-in aspect of the admission cycle. Just wanted to add on to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic idea, Christopher. I actually, I love chatting with counselors. Usually my colleagues comment that I sounds like when I was in the office, it sounded like I was talking to friends, but but it's, now is a great time to connect, right? And, I always tell counselors, don't just call me right when your kids are ready to submit. Call me throughout the process, right? As your students are applying in early action or early decision, reach out. We can talk about those students. Even now is a great time, I will say, right before we're getting ready to dive into our application training. I have a lot of downtime. So sometimes it's just as quick as 15, 20 minutes checking in, seeing what kinds of questions are on both ends, because we're all kind of working through this weird time together. So
absolutely, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, we have Lorenzo back.
Lorenzo's back, yeah. You're still on.
Lorenzo, we still can't hear you. Do you want to chat in the chat and let us know?
And while he's doing that, I did see a comment or a question from my old friend Sam from College AIM in Atlanta. His question was, with a lot of smaller CBOs that's trying to engage with colleges and create partnerships, Are colleges willing to hop in and support CBOs financially? Are they willing to make college, visiting college accessible, applying to college accessible, maybe through fee waivers? Or what are some things that colleges can do and have been doing to help CBOs and their students in the past? I think we have, about 2 minutes left, you think?
Yeah, I would guess so. We haven't gotten the 5-minute hook yet, so.
We'll keep going until Brittany stops us then.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we have a lot of admissions folks on this call, so if there's anyone who wants to jump in, otherwise I can continue talking.
All right, we got Lorenzo's question too. With more students considering alternative, cheaper routes, is there a list of CBOs that might focus more on transfer community college side? That is a good question. Oh, we got the 2-minute warning too. That is a really good question. For the community college side, transfer to the community college, you had any experience with that, Danielle?
Like starting out at a community college and then transferring to a 4-year? Is that how I'm understanding the question?
Yeah, or any CBOs that you work with that are that focus on transfers from community college to 4-year?
Yeah, actually, there's a really wonderful organization out of New York called the Kaplan Education Foundation. They specifically work with students in the New York City college system, and they'll accept students who demonstrate really strong leadership potential, and then they have a very one-on-one intensive counseling process to help them look at lots of different 4-year institutions across the university or across the US. So and it looks like we had a couple of other things mentioned in the chat with TRIO, student support services, educational opportunity centers, absolutely, tons of those. And so I know the TRIO groups have a lot of, they have resources and directories, but also Greenlight should be able to connect you with those kinds of organizations. Let's see. Oh, and it looks like Rowan University is looking to connect with these groups too. So yeah, and I would say starting with 1 or 2 of those orgs is great because they're connected to people on the ground in their area and across the country. So I know when I talked to the folks at Kaplan Ed, for example, they were like, if you're interested in our org and our students, you should really be talking to my colleagues over at this organization too. So even just maybe asking some of your current partners who might be a good fit for you to partner with is a great way to build your network of CBOs that you can partner with.
And it looks like, to Sam's question, Valerie Gregory made a comment about a lot of colleges will try to support CBOs through fly-in programs, fee waivers. Just have to just give it a shot and don't be afraid to ask. And that is true. I know sometimes with our annual college fair, we do have a lot of colleges that will invite students to fly-in programs on the spot and waive fees. So there are a lot of colleges out there that will work to make your kids can visit your schools.
Yes, and the topic of the moment right now in the admissions world is doing virtual fly-in programs. So we just hosted one at Michigan, which was a lot of fun. It was a 3-day affair, but a really great way to build some one-on-one relationships with students who are interested in the university, but also maybe don't know a lot about it, won't have a chance to visit, possibly with COVID happening right now. So I would definitely agree with Darren. Ask, always ask. Mention you're a CBO, that you're working with really highly talented, diverse students, and you're just looking to connect them to someone, because a lot of universities are still figuring out, unfortunately, how to broadcast and highlight some of the great things that we're doing on the ground to support students throughout this process.
And I think we might be at time, I believe.
I think so. I wish we could talk forever.
No, this is fun.
It's been wonderful. All of you are so amazing. Thank you for your participation today. And we hope to stay in touch with you. Please feel free to reach out to me personally. I can put my information in the chat here. And Darren, I'm sure you're also available to field questions as well. So.
Yeah, and I'll put my email in the chat as well. But thank you all. This was a great experience. I think we all learned a lot. I learned a lot from your comments too. So thank you guys for hopping on and participating with us.
Yeah, and keep doing the great work. We'll see you all around.
And have a great year.